You ever drive past a sign for some tiny, unincorporated community and just wonder, hey, where did that name even come from? Well, today we're going to dive into the story of one of those places, Poston, South Carolina. And let me tell you, it's an incredible tale about migration, ambition, and what's left behind when a town's story outlives the town itself.
So if you look at a map, Poston is just this little dot in Florence County, sitting right there by the Great Pee Dee River. It's a pretty quiet place these days, but don't let that fool you. That tiny dot holds a story that stretches back more than 300 years.
And that's really what we're getting at here. How does a place become so tied to one family that it literally takes their name? And what kind of legacy is left when, the railroad moves on and the boom goes bust?
To find the answers, we've got to go way back. Our journey doesn't start on the banks of a South Carolina river. It starts an entire ocean away.
You see, the Poston family name first shows up in American records way back in the early 1700s, but the story starts in England. This is about more than just a town. It's about one family's huge, multi-generational trek to find a place they could finally call their own.
So just look at this journey. It all kicks off in 1703 when the first ancestor we know of, John Poston, gets on a boat in Liverpool. Almost 20 years later, in 1722, he's on the tax rolls in Pennsylvania. But the family keeps moving. In 1766, his descendants sell that farm and start heading south, finally settling in the South Carolina backcountry by the end of the century. What a trip.
And that whole journey south, it wasn't just some casual move. It was this epic undertaking along one of early America's most important and, frankly, most difficult highways.
I mean, try to picture it. These big, sturdy Conestoga wagons, packed with everything they owned. The women and kids are inside, and the men and boys are walking alongside, herding their cattle. They're rumbling down the Great Philadelphia Wagon Road, part of this massive wave of people heading for cheaper land and, hopefully, a better life in the Carolinas.
Irma Poston Landers, who was the family historian, wrote this back in 1965. We cannot help admiring the courage of our ancestors. It's so simple, but so true. When you think about the risks, the unknowns, the sheer willpower it took, you really can't help but admire them.
And here's a perfect example of how family stories work. For generations, the tradition was that two brothers, John and Andrew, made that big trip south. But when historians dug into the archives, they found a little twist. The records show it was actually John and his brother Anthony, who was listed as Antony, and get this, they were the grandsons of the original immigrant. The spirit of the story was totally true, even if the details got a little fuzzy over the years.
Okay, so the family has settled. How do we get from a plot of land to a town that actually bears their name? Well, this is where the story of Poston, the town, really gets going.
Before it was ever Poston, the place was called Ellison, and it wasn't just some random spot. It was a small but really important river port, a crucial little hub for trade and getting around in the South Carolina backcountry.
And this is Andrew Poston. He was a big deal in the area, a Confederate veteran who had lost the use of his right hand in the war. And here's this wonderful, humanizing detail. He was known for his custom-made left-handed mustache cup, so he could still drink his coffee without any trouble. It's those little details that really make a person from the past feel real, you know?
Okay, remember this year, 1914. This is the year that changes absolutely everything for the little river port of Ellison.
The railroad came to town. A new junction brought jobs, businesses, and this sudden economic boom, the kind of thing that completely reshaped countless American towns. And right in the middle of all that excitement, the community decides to rename their booming town to honor its most respected citizen, Andrew Poston.
So the town of Poston was officially born, but its moment in the spotlight was going to be bright, and as it turned out, tragically short. This pretty much lays out the town's entire, incredibly fast life cycle, right? It starts as the port of Ellison. Then, bam, the 1914 railroad boom creates Poston. But then, conflict. Locals actually pushed back against the planned railroad repair shop, a decision that basically slammed the brakes on all that growth. The final blow came after Andrew Poston died in 1916. The main rail line was lost, and the town just faded.
It's really a poignant story. The town that shot up so fast on the promise of the railroad found out just how fragile that prosperity was. Without its namesake leader and the railway that built it, Poston's boom years were over almost as quickly as they started.
So what happens to a place like this when the boom is over? Well, the buildings might fade away, but the Poston family's connection to that land, that didn't disappear.
It just changed.
The Poston legacy today isn't something you find on a town sign, but it's right there in the fields, the forests, and the waters where their ancestors first settled. And that brings us to the Poston Preserve.
Yep, 300 acres. Founded by Dr. Harold Chalmers Poston Jr., a direct descendant of those original settlers, the preserve is a private wildlife sanctuary. The family's role has totally shifted from settling the land to now being its stewards.
And the whole preserve runs on these three core ideas: conservation, to protect the natural landscape; heritage, to honor the family's deep, deep roots in this very soil; and quiet enjoyment, to make sure this land stays a sanctuary for both wildlife and people.
So when we step back and look at this incredible journey, you really see how a family's legacy can twist and turn and transform, but still endure for centuries.
This logo just says it all, doesn't it? It connects that 18th century immigrant ship all the way to a 21st century wildlife sanctuary. It's proof that a family story is written not just in old books, but on the land itself. From a family to a town, and now back to the land. The Poston story has really come full circle.
The story of Poston shows that every single place, no matter how small it looks on a map, has a deep and powerful history. And that matters because it should make all of us ask ourselves, what story does the land where I live tell? What history is just waiting to be uncovered right under my own feet?